Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and we're going to talk about how Dungeon Masters today proceed in starting their Dungeons & Dragons campaigns. Because there's now two paths. This started with Plane Shift Dominaria, and now it is just explosively, it's just exploded. So the Dungeons & Dragons design team has gone farther than any other product in the world on intellectual property expansion. They have done an intellectual property expansion from their intellectual property to other properties, right? And so basically, this is complicated. So I'm going to try to walk you with me here. So essentially, if you're Marvel, right, and you have Iron Man, right, so you're like, okay, hey, we want to make extra money. We sell these comic books, we sell these movies, but we want to expand our intellectual property to be able to make money with other products, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to put Iron Man on a towel, right? And then somebody's going to wipe the shower water off their butt with Iron Man, right? And you're like, and that's okay. We expect that because a towel is used to dry yourself when you get out of the shower, right? Like that's what a towel's for. Well, when you connect Dungeons & Dragons to anything else, what's Dungeons & Dragons used for? To tell stories, right? And so basically, if you use Tony Stark to, Iron Man to dry your butt, if you attach that to a towel, right? If you attach a product to Dungeons & Dragons, any reasonable dungeon master is going to tell a story with the product you sold them. The product that you connected. Somebody's like, hey, yeah, I'm going to drown my butt with Iron Man. Any reasonable dungeon masters, yeah, you made a narrative bridge between these two stories. You went down this road of intellectual property expansion. I'm going to tell a story with the thing you just connected to Dungeons & Dragons, because that's what Dungeons & Dragons does. It tells stories, just the way a towel dries somebody's butt, right? It's a reasonable use, right? Like so let's talk about so right now, because of this, right? Before intellectual property expansion happened significantly with Plane Shift, connecting Dungeons & Dragons to multiple Magic the Gathering worlds, you had dungeon masters who so you have a dungeon master, their campaign is starting, their old process was an ethereal approach, right? You're like, oh, I have some concepts in my head, I'm going to write them on this pen and this pencil, I'm going to write them down, I'm going to write down these concepts in my head with these pencils and these papers, right? The moment Dominaria started, that changed, right? And you saw the rise of the material dungeon master, right? The dungeon master is like, I don't need a pen and a pad to get ready for my Dungeons & Dragons game. I have these cards, right? I can just simply, okay, Dominaria, Kaladesh, Innistrad, these are all Dungeons & Dragons worlds. I already own my DMG, my PHB, and my MM. Now I just pick up the cards and I pick which characters I'm going to run, which locations I'm going to run, which events I'm going to, feature, and I create my Dungeons & Dragons campaign Magic the Gathering scenario deck. Done, right? No pen in the pad. It's a material, physical approach to building your campaign. So right now, what we see is we see the rise of two different types of dungeon masters, right? The ethereal dungeon master, who writes down concepts from their head and builds their and does intangible campaign composition, right? And now we have the material dungeon master, right? And they sit down with Magic the Gathering cards, or they sit down with Lego sets, or they sit down with Yahtzee dice sets. Yes, I was shocked to find that Dungeons & Dragons connected itself to multiple, it had done intellectual property expansion through Yahtzee. I was stunned to find that out. Was completely unaware, right? Or they, so Magic the Gathering, so they sit down and they materially build their campaign, right? Through Magic the Gathering, or through Yahtzee, or through Legos. I think there's even more than that, though. There's a lot. It's really incredible. So those are the ones that come to mind right now, and I'm pretty convinced there are even more than that, though. So you have the ethereal dungeon master who does intangible campaign composition, and you have the material dungeon master who does tangible campaign construction. This is brand new. We're in new territory now, but this is the way that modern dungeon masters split themselves. They go down. They're both heading in the same direction, but they're taking slightly divergent paths. Right? Very exciting. Dungeon Dragons is an incredibly organic, growing creature. It is amazing. All that's my humble opinion. I am incredibly eager to hear yours. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.